Right now, somewhere in Southeast Asia, someone is sitting behind a locked gate, holding a phone that was taken from them 3 weeks earlier. And here is the disturbing part. They walked through that gate on their own, smiling, convinced they had just landed the best-paying job of their life. This is not fiction. It happened repeatedly through 2025, and it has not stopped. In the next few minutes, you will get the exact locations where this keeps unfolding, plus the one place on this entire list where you could leave your door unlocked overnight and lose nothing at all. But here is the twist almost nobody mentions. The single most dangerous entry on this ranking is not the one with the worst online reputation. It is the one that looks like the most flawless vacation photo you have ever seen. Keep watching until number 17, because once you hear what happened to one young traveler there, you will read every travel brochure differently for the rest of your life. Before we go further, quick question: where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city below. There is a real chance it turns up somewhere on this list. Every one of these 17 places was tested against 5 things that genuinely end trips badly. Organized violent crime, the kind run like an actual business, complete with payrolls and quotas. Legal landmines, the local rules nobody reads until they are standing inside a police station explaining themselves. The condition of hospitals and roads, because a broken ankle is a minor delay in one country and a 5-hour drive to a working operating table in another. What nature itself is doing to the land, storms, fault lines, coastlines vanishing under rising water, and the one factor everyone forgets, the sheer mental fatigue of being overcharged, stared at, or lied to a dozen times before lunch. We are counting down from the most dangerous entry on Earth to the safest one, so if you came here for good news, it is coming. You will just have to earn it first. Think of this less as a warning reel and more as a map. The first half shows you exactly where that instinct to run should kick in, and the second half shows you where you can finally let it rest. Let us start where the danger stops being a rumor and starts being an actual industry. Number 17. Phnom Penh and Sihanoukville, Cambodia. This city used to sell itself as a sleepy beach town. Cheap beer, cheaper guest houses, the kind of place backpackers wrote home about. That version is gone. Amnesty International investigators identified at least 53 walled compounds across Cambodia, concentrated most heavily in Sihanoukville and the border towns of Bavet and Poipet, where people are held behind razor wire and forced to run online fraud operations around the clock. Survivors did not describe a workplace. They described cages, electric shocks, and being sold between operators when they missed a quota. One young man from South Korea never made it out. An autopsy in August of 2025 confirmed he had been tortured to death in Kampot province, and that single case is what finally dragged global attention onto a fraud economy some financial reporters have valued at close to $19 billion a year, nearly the size of an entire national industry. Cambodian officials report deporting roughly 48,000 foreign nationals since the crackdown began, a number that sounds like progress until you realize how large the problem had to be for that figure to exist at all. This is not a city that robs you. This is a city that can make you disappear, and what is happening less than an hour from here makes even this look contained. Number 16. The Myawaddy border zone, Myanmar. Cross the river from Thailand near this town, and you leave any single government's authority behind entirely. Compounds like KK Park became infamous once journalists smuggled cameras inside, revealing tens of thousands of workers recruited through convincing but entirely fake job advertisements, now confined on land controlled by an armed militia that profits from the arrangement. Thailand grew alarmed enough to cut power, internet, and fuel to the entire area at the start of 2025 just to choke the operation. It barely made a dent. By the middle of 2026, a human rights group tracking the region still counted more than 5,300 people held there, and United Nations investigators estimate over 120,000 people have been forced into this kind of labor inside Myanmar alone. None of this belongs on a tourist itinerary, and yet it keeps appearing on one, marketed as a border adventure or a cheap visa run. Do not become the cautionary story someone else tells later. Our next stop trades barbed wire for something far easier to miss, a trap hiding in plain sight at arrivals. Number 15. Manila, Philippines. Here the story gets complicated, because on paper, Manila is actually improving. The city's own police data showed violent and property crime falling by more than 26% in the first 4 months of 2025, a statistic officials are rightly proud of. So why does it still land this high? Because what remains is no longer random, it is precise. In the first half of 2026, the Chinese embassy confirmed 7 separate kidnapping cases involving its own citizens, linked to gambling debts and underground casino networks that never fully left the capital. Victims have been pulled off busy streets in daylight and released only after families paid ransoms. Layer in the long-standing warning from foreign governments to avoid the Sulu archipelago and much of Mindanao entirely because of kidnapping and terrorism, and the picture sharpens. Manila rewards travelers who stay inside a handful of known neighborhoods and punishes anyone who wanders past them. Stick to areas like Makati, Bonifacio Global City, and Intramuros, and the odds swing firmly in your favor. It is not the trap it once was. It is smaller now and considerably more targeted. Number 14. Bangkok, Thailand. Bangkok never had a violence problem severe enough to scare visitors away. Its real threat is subtler, and in 2026, it got noticeably sharper. Scammers now use artificial intelligence to generate hotel and airline emails convincing enough to fool experienced travelers into wiring deposits to accounts that belong to no one. Nothing like the clumsy broken English scams of a decade ago. Thai lawmakers also cut the visa-free stay for many Western passport holders from 60 days down to 30, after officials noticed travelers running small businesses on tourist status. And if you assumed cannabis was still casual here, think again. New border enforcement now treats attempts to carry it across the frontier as a criminal offense, a sharp reversal from the country's brief experiment with decriminalization. The most common street crime remains simple: a thief on a motorbike snatching a bag off your shoulder, responsible for roughly 41% of all reported tourist theft. Bangkok will still charm you completely. It will also, without raising its voice, take your money the moment you stop paying attention. Not every threat on this list wears a face. Some of it is baked directly into the infrastructure, into hospitals that cannot keep up and land that cannot hold still. Number 13. Delhi, India. Delhi does not need dramatic headlines, the numbers already carry the weight. One widely used global safety index ranked Delhi as the least safe city in India for 2026, 255th out of every city measured worldwide, with an overall safety score under 41 out of 100. Official figures put the charge sheeting rate, meaning cases that actually move toward prosecution, at under 32%. The lowest of any major Indian metro. That gap between an incident and any real consequence is precisely what lets repeat offenders keep operating in plain sight. Add the winter smog that turns the sky the color of wet concrete and aggravates any existing respiratory condition, and the danger stops being one dramatic event and becomes a slow accumulation of smaller ones. Millions pass through every year without incident. Millions of others learn, the hard way, exactly why locals warn against walking alone near the railway stations after dark. None of this applies evenly across the country either. Tourist regions such as Rajasthan and Goa report far lower incident rates and heavier security investment, which says less about India as a whole and more about exactly how concentrated Delhi's specific risks really are. Number 12. Jakarta, Indonesia. Jakarta is not sinking in some distant future, it is sinking right now, measurably, every single year. Roughly 40% of the city already sits below sea level, and the northern districts alone have dropped more than 8 feet over the past decade, from decades of unregulated groundwater pumping. In March of 2025, flooding across Greater Jakarta killed at least 9 people and caused more than $258 million in damage, and officials considered that an ordinary wet season, not an extreme one. Indonesia's response has been almost unbelievable in scale, relocating its entire capital to a brand new city called Nusantara, built from scratch on another island, effectively conceding that saving Jakarta may not happen within most of our lifetimes. Roughly 10 million residents remain behind regardless, in a metropolis where the seawall meant to hold back the ocean is still years from finished. Engineers have nicknamed the most ambitious version of that project the Garuda Seawall, after the mythical bird of Indonesian folklore, and even its own planners admit it is racing a clock the ocean has no intention of slowing down for. Visit Jakarta and you will likely have a wonderful trip. Just do not be surprised if your hotel lobby carries the faint smell of a river with nowhere left to drain. Crime can be avoided with good judgment. A sinking city can at least be planned around. What comes next cannot be negotiated with at all, because it was written into the landscape long before any tourist arrived. Number 11. Cebu and the Visayas region, Philippines. If Manila is about targeted crime, the central Philippines is about targeted weather, and the last two typhoon seasons prove it. In November of 2025, a storm known locally as Tino and internationally as Typhoon Kalmegi killed at least 66 people nationwide, 49 of them in Cebu alone, from falling debris, landslides, and flash flooding. Weeks earlier, a separate storm reached Category 5 strength, with sustained winds estimated near 166 miles per hour. This is not an anomaly. It is the seasonal rhythm of this stretch of ocean roughly between July and November. There is one genuine bright spot buried in the data. Palawan, home to El Nido and Coron, sits far enough west to consistently dodge the worst of these storm tracks, making it one of the more sheltered island escapes in the country during peak season. Everywhere else here, check the forecast obsessively, because this ocean does not send polite warnings first. Number 10. Istanbul, Turkey. Istanbul earns its place here for a reason that has nothing to do with crime or scam artists. It earns it from the ground itself. The city sits almost directly above the North Anatolian fault line, one of the most closely monitored fault systems on the planet, and seismologists have warned for years that pressure has been accumulating along this stretch without release for an unusually long stretch of time. Combine that with a dense, aging urban core home to millions of people, much of it built before modern earthquake codes existed, and the risk stops being theoretical. None of this means avoid the city. Millions live there safely every day. It means that knowing your building and your evacuation route matters here in a way it simply does not everywhere else on this list. Once you stop worrying about the ground beneath your feet, the next stop hands you something new to worry about: the law itself. These next three places will not rob you, and the ground beneath them is stable. What waits instead is paperwork, custom, and fine print. The kind of danger you only discover after it is already too late to undo. Number 9. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. By almost every conventional measure, Riyadh is one of the safer capital cities on this entire list where street crime is concerned. Violence against visitors is rare, the streets are immaculate, and public order is enforced without hesitation. The catch is that enforcement reaches well past crime into personal behavior, dress, and interactions between men and women that would draw no attention anywhere else on this ranking. Alcohol remains fully illegal nationwide, with no exception for tourists, and while dress expectations have relaxed somewhat as the country opens up to visitors, modest clothing is still expected outside dedicated tourist zones. The country is actively courting international visitors as part of a broader economic vision, which makes the contrast sharper rather than softer. The welcome mat is real, but it is not up for negotiation. There is little room here for the casual improvisation travelers rely on elsewhere. One misjudged custom can escalate into a legal matter far more serious than a fine. Riyadh rewards preparation and punishes assumption, so learn the rules before you land, because there is no charming your way out of them afterward. Number 8. Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Dubai photographs like a fantasy, and mostly, the fantasy holds up. Low street crime, immaculate infrastructure, real luxury. What the photographs never show is the legal system running underneath all of it. A federal law that took effect on January 1st of 2026 now makes deportation automatic for any foreign national convicted of a narcotics offense, with almost no exceptions, even for small personal amounts. The definition of narcotics here is far wider than most visitors expect. Everyday prescription medication, including certain painkillers and attention deficit treatments, can require health ministry approval just to bring into the country, and travelers have landed in real legal trouble simply for packing their normal medicine cabinet. The blood alcohol limit for driving sits at 0, no margin at all. Even an obscene gesture during an argument, spoken or typed, can be prosecuted as an insult to someone's honor. None of this is secret. It is public law that almost nobody reads before boarding the flight. Dubai will not rob you on the street. It might, however, let you talk yourself straight into a courtroom. Number 7. Bali and Denpasar, Indonesia. Bali sells an image of total, permanent relaxation, and that exact image is what gets people into trouble. After confirming that nearly 130 foreigners were deported in the first 3 months of 2025 alone, alongside more than 4,300 formal complaints against tourists in that same window, local authorities issued an updated set of formal guidelines for visitors. One recurring, quietly lethal issue is homemade arak, a local spirit occasionally mixed carelessly enough to contain methanol, which has poisoned and killed travelers who assumed a cheap cocktail was simply a cheap cocktail. Then there is Nyepi, the island's day of silence, when the entire island shuts down for 24 hours, no flights, no lights, no walking outside, and local patrol officers actively arrest visitors caught sneaking out for a swim. Combine that with a string of serious criminal cases involving foreign visitors reported through 2025, and the picture sharpens fast. Bali is not dangerous, the way a war zone is dangerous. It is dangerous the way any place becomes once hundreds of thousands of visitors decide paradise means no rules apply to them. Take a breath, because the tone changes here. Nothing left on this list will hurt you physically. The only remaining question is how much soul survives all that safety, and this is exactly where the list starts rewarding you instead of testing you. Number 6. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur runs almost too smoothly. The Petronas Towers still anchor the skyline, and the rail network beneath them can get you nearly anywhere in the city without a single wrong turn. Public transport arrives on schedule, shopping malls stretch for what feels like entire city blocks, and daily life moves with corporate precision. What it trades away is texture. Much of the visitor experience unfolds inside air-conditioned towers rather than out on unpredictable streets, which makes the city genuinely low stress and, at the same time, easy to forget by the following week. One serious exception is worth remembering. Underneath all that calm, Malaysia keeps some of the strictest narcotics laws in the region, and a trafficking conviction can still carry the death penalty regardless of nationality. Beyond that single hard line, nothing here will hurt you, and very little will surprise you either. For travelers chasing color and chaos, Kuala Lumpur can feel like watching a beautifully produced show instead of actually living inside one. Number 5. Hong Kong. Hong Kong runs on verticality. Everything stacked upward instead of spreading outward. Malls fused to towers fused to train stations in one continuous chain. Most visitors barely notice they are standing inside. Step outside for 5 minutes and the humidity reminds you the harbor is still right there, even if the towers make you forget it. That same design makes almost every interaction feel transactional. A shopkeeper wants your money and your exit, in that order, with little room for the unplanned conversation that makes other cities memorable. It remains one of the safer places on this entire list for personal safety, low violent crime, functioning courts, dependable emergency services. One legal wrinkle is worth knowing before you land. Since the national security law took effect, political speech, protest participation, and even certain social media posts now carry legal risk that simply did not exist a decade ago, and that risk applies to visitors as much as residents. Outside that narrow lane, what the city withholds is warmth. Hong Kong protects you efficiently and moves straight on to the next transaction, which is either exactly what you want from a city or exactly why you forget it within a week of leaving. From here on, everything is genuinely safe. What separates the final 4 entries is not risk anymore, it is how much joy that safety leaves room for. Number 4. Taipei, Taiwan. Taipei manages something almost nothing else on this list pulls off: real order without losing real character. Street food stalls sit blocks from temples that have stood for centuries, and neither one feels staged for a camera. Night markets spill straight into ordinary neighborhood life instead of being roped off as a photo opportunity. And walking home late at night here carries none of the tension it does in most cities this size. Taiwan was also the first place in Asia to legalize same-sex marriage, and that same open, unhurried attitude tends to extend to how every visitor is treated, regardless of who they are. There is no dramatic warning waiting here, and that absence is exactly the point. Taipei proves a city can be both fascinating and safe at once, something several entries much higher on this list clearly never figured out. Number 3. Tokyo, Japan. Tokyo moves with a kind of quiet coordination that feels almost engineered, because in many ways it is. One widely cited Global Peace Index placed Japan's violent crime rate at roughly 0.3 incidents per 100,000 people, among the lowest figures recorded anywhere on Earth. Trains arrive within seconds of schedule. Millions of people pass through the same stations daily without visible friction, and lost items, including entire wallets, are routinely returned untouched. Japan actually sits on fault lines just as active as the ones beneath Istanbul, yet decades of strict building codes and constant public drilling mean that seismic risk rarely turns into the daily anxiety it creates elsewhere on this list. What makes Tokyo remarkable is not the size of the system, it is how invisible that system stays. You never feel managed here, you simply feel like nothing goes wrong. For a video built almost entirely on warnings, Tokyo comes closest to being the exception that proves every other rule on it. Number 2. Maldives. The Maldives holds a strange split position here, because the danger depends entirely on which side of a resort fence you are standing on. Inside the private resort islands, crime is close to non-existent, and security is tightly controlled by staff with every financial incentive to keep it that way. Step outside that bubble onto one of the local inhabited islands and the rules shift completely. This is a conservative Muslim nation where alcohol is banned outside resort property, public affection is frowned upon even between married couples, and same-sex relationships remain illegal under local law. The real physical risk here was never crime, it is the ocean itself. Currents strong enough to catch experienced swimmers off guard, occasional accidents during whale shark excursions, and real distance between the outer atolls and any serious hospital. Choose the right resort, respect the local rules the moment you step past the property line, and the Maldives delivers almost exactly the fantasy it sells. Ignore either one, and paradise turns complicated fast. Number 1. Singapore. Singapore earns the top spot for reasons that have nothing to do with luck. The same widely cited Global Peace Index placed the country's violent crime rate at roughly 0.2 incidents per 100,000 people, and the order you feel walking down any street here is not an accident, it is a deliberate, decades-long policy choice. Streets are clean enough to eat off of, public transport is intuitive even for a first-time visitor, and the strict rules that occasionally get mocked online, no chewing gum, steep fines for littering, are the exact same rules that let you walk anywhere in this city at 3 in the morning without a second thought. Singapore never asks you to manage your trip the way almost every other entry on this list does. It simply lets you live inside it. After 16 cities where the smartest move was constant vigilance, Singapore is the one place on this entire ranking that finally, genuinely, lets you exhale. 16 countdowns of watching your back end with one country that simply asks you to enjoy the view. Line all 17 of these places up side by side, and one uncomfortable truth surfaces. The danger was never really about geography. It was about how well a traveler understood the real rules of wherever they were standing, not the version printed in a glossy brochure. A 5-star resort compound in Cambodia and a 5-star resort compound in the Maldives can look almost identical in a marketing photo. One becomes the best week of your entire year. The other, statistically, has already ended someone else's. Check your own government's official travel advisory the week before you fly, not the week you booked, because several of the situations in this video shifted within a matter of months. None of this means stop traveling to Asia. It means traveling with your eyes open instead of your guard down, which, honestly, is the only real difference between a great story and a headline. Most people who visit every single destination on this list come home with nothing worse than a sunburn and a few good stories. This video exists for the smaller percentage who do not, and for the version of you that almost joined them. If this saved you from one expensive mistake, subscribe, because next week brings the exact same investigation for Europe and South America, and some of what turned up there is honestly worse. And do not forget, drop the city you are watching from in the comments below.